All right, welcome back to the channel. So, you're probably here because you're trying to figure out whether to go for the iPhone 13 Pro or splurge a bit more for the iPhone 14 Pro. And, it can be a really tough choice, especially when you want like the best phone, but also the best value in 2025. So, in this video, we're going to compare these two across all the stuff that actually matters. Design, display, how fast they are, cameras, and, battery life. I'm really going to focus on the practical differences, the stuff that you, as a buyer, would actually care about, not just like tiny spec gimmicks. And of course, I'll be throwing in my own thoughts as we go, and by the end, I'll tell you which one I'd personally pick. All right, let's get into it, starting with design and display. Honestly, holding them side by side, they feel pretty much the same. That flat-sided stainless steel frame, matte glass back, both are IP68 water resistant, and still rocking Apple's Lightning port. The big visual cue on the 14 Pro, when you look at the front, is definitely the new dynamic island instead of the old notch. It's like this pill-shaped island thingy. It actually takes up a tiny bit less space at the top, and it's kind of cool because it can expand to show notifications and alerts. It's a neat little extra, for sure, but I gotta say, by itself, it doesn't drastically change how the phone feels in day-to-day use. But here's a notable thing. Apple actually removed the physical SIM card slot on the 14 Pro models in the US. They went all in on eSIMs. The 13 Pro, though, still has that traditional SIM tray everywhere. Now, for most people, this won't be a big deal, but if you travel internationally a lot or like to swap SIM cards, that 13 Pro slot might be more convenient for you. Now, the screen, they're basically twins here. Both use a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display, and both have ProMotion, so you get that super smooth 120Hz refresh rate, but the 14 Pro can go down to 1 Hz and all the way up to 120 Hz, which iPhone 13 Pro just can go down to 10 Hz. Resolution, pixel density, pretty much identical, so like in normal use, how sharp the image looks, same thing. But here's where the 14 Pro really shines. Literally, brightness. Man, this thing can get super bright. We're talking over 1,600 nits for HDR stuff, and it can even peak around 2,000 nits in direct sunlight. The 13 Pro, it's good, but it tops out around 1,000 to 1,200 nits. So practically speaking, the 14 Pro screen is just much easier to see when you're outdoors or under really bright lights. That's a big plus for me. Another new thing on the 14 Pro is the always-on display. Yeah, I know Android phones have had this for ages, so Apple was kind of playing catch up here. The 13 Pro, no always-on mode there. So in short, the 14 Pro screen is subtly better, higher brightness, and that dynamic island feature. The 13 Pro's display is still fantastic, don't get me wrong, but yeah, the 14 Pro's is definitely more modern and improved for outdoor use. Okay, let's talk speed, performance, and processor. Both these iPhones, as of now in 2025, they're running the latest iOS 18.5. Hardware-wise, the 14 Pro did get Apple's newer chip. The iPhone 13 Pro has the A15 Bionic, which, let's be real, was already super fast. The iPhone 14 Pro uses the A16 Bionic. It's a modest step up, built on a 4nm process compared to 5nm on the A15. This mainly helps with power efficiency and gives some slight speed gains. In everyday stuff, browse the web, scrolling social media, gaming, using the camera, both phones feel extremely snappy. Seriously, you'll struggle to notice any normal speed differences. Benchmarks, yeah, they show the 14 Pro is faster, and in graphics tests, the gap does get a bit wider. The 14 Pro's new GPU and faster LPDDR5 RAM give it a healthy lead. Both have 6GB of RAM, but the 14 Pro's is the faster LPDDR5 versus LPDDR4X on the 13 Pro. That makes it a bit more future-proof for heavy gaming or graphics-heavy apps. However, even the 13 Pro, it's still a top-performing phone and handles everything current smoothly. Software updates. Apple promises many years of iOS updates for both. The 13 Pro is a generation older, so logically, expect roughly 1 less year of support. For most of us, this won't matter too much, but if you plan to keep the phone 3 to 5 years, the 14 Pro could get iOS updates 1 year longer. So basically, the 14 Pro is faster under heavy loads, but the 13 Pro was already incredibly capable. All right, now the camera. This is usually a big one. The headline upgrade on the iPhone 14 Pro is definitely that new 48 megapixel main sensor, up from 12 megapixel on the 13 Pro. This lets the 14 Pro capture way more detail, and it also enables a built-in 2x zoom crop mode using the center of that huge sensor. Pretty neat. Both phones still have the same 12 megapixel ultrawide lens and the 12 megapixel 3x telephoto lens. So the main camera. In daylight, the 14 Pro's 48 megapixel sensor shoots downsampled 12 megapixel images with extra clarity. In low light, the new photonic engine on the 14 Pro plus the bigger sensor slightly improve dim light shots. Tests show the 14 Pro captures more light, though I find the 13 Pro's colors sometimes look a bit more neutral. For most people, the difference will be noticeable only if you pixel peep. Both phones take excellent photos. If you shoot in ProRAW, the 14 Pro's 48 megapixel files are enormous, letting enthusiasts push editing much further. Ultrawide and telephoto, the ultrawide is virtually unchanged, the telephoto is also the same 12 megapixel on both. One minor change, the 14 Pro can crop that 48 megapixel sensor down for a 2x zoom, which you can select as a 2x camera option. The 13 Pro does not have a dedicated 2x, it jumps from 1x to 3x. So the 14 Pro is a bit more flexible there. Video-wise, both shoot 4K video up to 60 FPS. The key upgrade is that on the 14 Pro, cinematic mode can record in 4K. On the 13 Pro, it's limited to 1080p. The 14 Pro also adds a new action mode, electronic stabilization that smooths out shaky video. Nice perks if you do a lot of video. The 13 Pro still records great 4K video in normal mode. So, in shorts, the 14 Pro's camera system is a step up with that 48 megapixel sensor. You'll get more detail and flexibility. However, the 13 Pro already has spectacular cameras, and for most users, the day-to-day quality is very close. Okay, battery life. This is always a big one. Apple rates both phones about the same on paper. In reality, battery life is very similar, but with a little twist. The iPhone 14 Pro actually has a slightly larger battery. Charging speed is unchanged. But here's the interesting part. In real-world tests, the 13 Pro often outlasts the 14 Pro by a bit. Yeah, that new always-on display and brighter screen on the 14 Pro consume more power. In fact, keeping the 14 Pro's screen always on drains about 5% extra per day. Tom's Guide even noted worse battery life than last year for the 14 Pro. So, both phones will easily last a full day under normal use. Heavy use will see similar drains. If anything, assume the 14 Pro uses a few percent more juice for the same usage. But neither is a bad battery life phone. They're both good. Alright, some unique ecosystem bits. The 14 Pro has that dynamic island we talked about, which looks more modern than the 13 Pro's notch, and only the 14 Pro has the always-on display. Big ones for the 14 Pro are crash detection and emergency SOS via satellite. These aren't daily use features, but they could be lifesavers in rare emergencies, which the 13 Pro doesn't have. That's some nice peace of mind on the 14 Pro. MagSafe and wireless charging. Both phones have identical MagSafe compatibility. SIM cards. As noted, the 13 Pro retains a physical SIM tray. The 14 Pro in the US is eSIM only. Both have Lightning ports. So the ecosystem differences mostly favor the 14 Pro. Now, let's talk dollars. At launch, both phones started at $999 for 128 gigabytes in the US. Apple kept the iPhone 14 Pro's price the same as the 13 Pro's price from a year earlier. Of course, that was in 2021-2022. As of 2025, iPhone 14 Pro price now at under $500 on eBay, refurbished. The iPhone 13 Pro is around $350 to $400. Well, choose iPhone 14 Pro if you want the absolute newest features. Dynamic Island, always-on display, satellite SOS, crash detection, and that 48 megapixel camera. If those appeal to you and you're willing to pay the higher price, the 14 Pro is the better all-rounder. It's the best iPhone in almost every spec except battery. My personal pick. If it were up to me and remembering the budget-conscious audience, I'd lean toward the iPhone 13 Pro. It still does everything a flagship should, but at a lower cost and with slightly better stamina. I appreciate the battery life and the 13 Pro's excellent camera and display. The dynamic island and always on are neat, but not deal breakers for me. That said, I completely understand why someone might pick the 14 Pro instead. It's the more feature-rich and future-ready phone. In the end, both phones are fantastic. The 14 Pro is the more advanced model, while the 13 Pro is the better value model now. Your choice depends on how much you value the extra features versus the extra cost. So which would you choose? Let me know in the comments. Are you leaning towards saving money with the 13 Pro or getting the latest tech with the 14 Pro? Also, check out our other videos. We have comparisons like iPhone 13 versus 14 and should I upgrade to iPhone 15 coming soon. If you found this comparison helpful, please give the video a like and subscribe for more tech reviews and guides. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.